In this series, I'm going to walk you through how to perform a Wi-Fi site survey using NetAlly's AirMapper. But before we get into how we do the survey, let's start with why we do a Wi-Fi site survey. Hello, my name's Mike Panacki. Good Wi-Fi isn't something that just happens. Good Wi-Fi is the result of good design and effectively validating that design. To begin this series of videos on using NetAlly's AirMapper application to perform a wireless site survey, we're going to start with discussing the purpose of performing a site survey of a Wi-Fi environment. When it comes down to it, a survey is intended to determine if the Wi-Fi network will meet the needs of its users. This is accomplished by measuring several metrics that allow us to determine Wi-Fi network performance and coverage. The metrics measured include signal-to-noise ratio, data rates, and interference. It's important that before we make changes to a wireless network, we perform a pre-change site survey. Why can't we just throw in a bunch of access points, do a speed test with a laptop, and call it good? Well, a good Wi-Fi design requires a thorough understanding of the existing wireless environment. By conducting a Wi-Fi site survey prior to designing a new Wi-Fi network or upgrading an existing one, we know what else is out there. Knowledge of neighboring networks, interference sources such as microwave ovens and wireless cameras, and identified dead spots can be incorporated into the design to ensure the desired performance and coverage are provided. Without knowing what we have, it's virtually impossible to come up with a good design. Knowing where coverage is lacking and where providing higher performance is required is key to making good design decisions. During the implementation phase, validating the wired infrastructure is just as important, if not more so, than the wireless infrastructure. With many APs relying on PoE for power, specific VLANs for proper configuration and routing, and multi-gig links for higher bandwidth, it's essential that these aspects are also validated during installation, especially if new cabling has been installed to support the required changes. Once the design is complete and the implementation of the design is finished, it's time to perform a post-change site survey. We cannot assume that all the design objectives have been met. This survey is used to validate that the network is delivering the desired result. But doing a throughput test here and there, or spot checking signal strength with a mobile device does not validate the design. We need to repeat the site survey that we did at the beginning of the project and compare the results with the objectives. Things could have changed during the design and implementation. While we have control over our environment, neighboring networks could have changed. If during the validation survey we find that changes need to be made, we can make those changes and repeat the validation. This process is repeated until all objectives have been met and validated. Once the validation is complete and the objectives have been met, the survey is used as documentation. If questions arise later about the performance of the Wi-Fi network, this documentation may be used as proof that everything was operating as agreed upon when the project was completed. This documentation is also useful when troubleshooting problems in the future to know how things looked when they were working well. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and be sure to check out our other videos on using AirMapper to perform Wi-Fi site surveys.